This regular meeting of the Page County School Board.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Overfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Please pause for a minute of silence as we prepare for the meeting tonight. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Fox, do you have any agenda changes or additions?
I do not.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented this evening.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Ms. Alger to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Overfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to certify personal matters discussed in closed session were approved by the Section 2.2-3711A1.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Overfelt to certify personnel matters discussed in closed session.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Overfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the consent agenda. Any questions?
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Brown? Mr. Overfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Dr. Fox, update on PCPS Alternative Education Program?
Yes, so good evening, Board. Tonight, I want to just walk you through, this summer, we spent quite a bit of time revamping our alternative education program. And some of these changes you're already aware of because you voted on a budget to support some of the positions, but the others, I just wanted to make sure that you're aware and that we have fully shown you some of the changes. We're excited about these changes. We think these changes benefit our students in a variety of different ways and also support our staff and the work that they have to do. So our alternative education programming consists of a variety of different pieces. The main pieces are your traditional day programs. So we call those our alternative education academies. We have 3 of them. We'll walk you through each of those in just a moment. We also have our off-campus learning program, which happens in the afternoons at the tech center. And that's for students that we may need to just have a different schedule for. They may be working on different types of things. We also have our alternative suspension center, which runs Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if a student is suspended at their home school, instead of staying home, we transport them to the tech center and they spend the day at the suspension center doing their work, catching up, getting help, support that they need there. We have what we call ISAEP, or the Individual Student Alternative Education Plan. That's a pathway for students who may not have enough credits, may be aging out, and they can work towards getting their GED. So that is a part of our alternative education program. And then we have home-based learning. Sometimes a student might be placed on home-based learning for a variety of reasons. And then that is also considered a part of our alternative program. For our these programs, we've developed a mission and our beliefs for those programs. And so you can read those there. So as we we really want this to come together, and you'll see as our future plan is to have all of this housed under one roof and one program that's cohesive. Right now it's cohesive, but it is in separate buildings. So our goal over time is to get that into one building. But we have a mission, we have our beliefs there. In terms of our different academies, so these are the programs that students attend during the day. We have the Rise Academy, and this is built off of the Eagle Rising from the Tech Center. This program is for our students in grades 9 through 12. Our Panther Academy right now is for students in grades 6 through 8, and that's housed at Page County Middle School. And then the New Beginnings Academy for our students in grades K through 5 is currently housed at Springfield. Students are typically assigned to these alternative, and I'm focusing more now on our academy programs. They're typically assigned through the superintendent's disciplinary hearing process. They might be assigned through an administrative review process, or they're as a result of a placement from another alternative setting that they may have been put in from another division. So if they transfer to us and they were already in an alternative placement, it's likely we're going to continue that placement for them. Transportation to and from the program is provided by the division, so we pick up at home and we drop off at home. Students can drive, for the older students, if they have permission, and as long as it's not a piece when they are in the hearing that we remove driving privileges, they are able to drive to the program. Parents can certainly transport if they want to. We do, again, all programs, they'll get free breakfast and lunch when they're on site. And then while we obviously want them to keep moving forward academically, the goal of these programs is also then to work on their behavioral, their social, their emotional, those needs of the students. Because if they aren't in a good place there, then they can't learn. So we do have some focus on other things that are outside of the academic world for students in these programs. They are issued a division level behavior contract because in most cases, they're there for some kind of disciplinary. Not all, but in most. And that just outlines for them and their family the behavior expectations that we have for them. They will, if they currently get special education or Section 504 services, those will continue. They'll be met by the home school and by the school where the academy is placed. So at the tech center, they'll receive those services from Mrs. Comer. At the middle school, from the middle school teachers, special education staff there, and at Springfield Elementary from the special education staff there. And then we did work through and we've developed a handbook. So parents and students it's a similar version to our division-wide handbook and code of conduct, but this handbook is specific to the alternative programs. So it talks about things like the schedules, what they do with their phones or their devices when they come on campus. What's different this year? The main thing is, if you recall in the past, students were typically assigned, everybody was going to the tech center, and we added in the last semester of last year, we added in the K-5 program. Students were going a half a day. They were assigned either half-day program, and that was it, or they might do a half-day at the alternative program and do a half-day at their home school. The program now is all day, and it works from 9 to 2. The reason we do that is because it's so individualized, those staff members need extra time and planning to be able to meet the needs of those students. So it allows for some planning before and some after for them. Again, transportation is provided. So it's a little bit different structure. Some of the kids got used to only going for a half day. Now they're going to be going for a full day. They are also placed in for a minimum of 18 weeks, which is 2 quarters or 1 semester. That makes it much easier to transition kids in and out because there's a clean break to that. However, there is some flexibility if a student is ready within that 18 weeks to transition back. They've met the behavior goals, they've met the academic goals. We do have the flexibility to transition them back sooner should they need to do that. But for now, everybody will be assigned on a standard 18-week schedule. So over the course of that, again, if those measures are being met, that team will meet. The team consists of the administrators, it consists of school counselors, teachers, the parent, the student, if it's age appropriate for that, and any other appropriate staff member. So if they are special education, the case manager would be a part of that meeting. For our middle school students and high school students, this is going to be different for them. When they walk in the building, we've bought lock boxes, and they're individualized, so the student will place their cell phone in the lock box, it gets locked, and when they leave at the end of the day, they can retrieve that phone at the end of the day. And this information has been shared with all of the students that are currently being placed in their families. There's a little bit different this year. Sometimes when students were placed at the tech center for alt ed in the past, we would transition them over to Apex, which is an online learning system. It does allow for some pacing of instruction, so a student may not have to repeat an entire class. We can decide what modules they might need to do. So there's benefits to that, but it did take them out of whatever they were working on at their home school. We've decided we're going to move and do Schoology, which is our learning management system. Kids will stay in contact with their classes, and they'll follow along the content with their classes. So the teachers at the tech center, at Page Middle and at Springfield, will be working with those teachers from their home school to make sure that they're following along with those assignments that are in Schoology. And then the credit recovery piece. So that used to be a piece that we were doing at the tech center through alt ed. So say a student failed English first semester, they need English to graduate, we might have them do credit recovery the second semester. Again, you don't have to redo the entire class, you do portions of the class. We were doing some of that at the tech center. High schools were doing some of that at the home school. We've moved all of that back to the home schools now. So kids will be doing their credit recovery work at their high schools with staff there. So that program's been solidified at the home schools. And it was a small number of kids that were being moved to the tech center to do that anyway. So it's not a huge imposition on staffing at the high school. In terms of other additional supports and activities, so the students' homeschool counselors, even though we now have a counselor that is dedicated to the tech center, that counselor is split between the tech center kids, grades 9 through 12, and Stanley. They're still going to stay in touch with their homeschool counselor. They're still going to meet with them so that when they do transition back to their homeschool, there hasn't been this breadth of time where they haven't had contact. At the middle school, at Panther Academy, Mrs. Weaver will be the counselor there, and Mrs. Painter will be the counselor for the students at Springfield. Principals will be meeting throughout the semester with parents and updating them and see where their progress is. Again, looking academically, behaviorally, socially, all of those things. External counseling services can still be done at any of these sites. So say a student meets weekly with an external counselor. If the parent wants, we can set that up so that they can do that meeting virtually or on site with that counselor while they're at the alternative placement center. So those things can still happen. We're bringing in, for example, last year we had a couple of students that really needed some extra support because they had lost family members. So Blue Ridge Hospice came in and they provided some grief counseling, all of it with parent consent, but they actually came into the school to do that work during the school day with the students. So we'll provide time in the schedule to be able to do that. Career coaches from the high schools will be coming over to meet with students to talk about career goals, looking at some of those career inventories, maybe doing other things with them that they might be doing with other kids during that semester. We'll make sure that the alternative education students get those same experiences. Our behavior support specialists will be supporting all of the students in the alt ed. They're working with our staff on strategies on how to manage different types of behaviors. We are doing some kind of physical activity at all levels. You'll see in just a minute when we show you the schedule, there's built-in recess at the elementary level. At the secondary level, they're going to use at the Panther Academy, they can use the gym, they can go outside to the track. At the tech center, they've been doing some different activities, walking, they're buying a basketball hoop. So there'll be some kind of physical activity for the students as they move through the day. We're going to provide them with encore experiences. So we're working with our PE, our art, our music, our librarians to make sure that kids in these programs still get exposure to those kinds of activities. So it might be that an art teacher from a school comes over and does a lesson, or it might be that an art teacher works with one of the alternative ed teachers. They create a lesson together, and then the alternative ed teacher delivers that lesson. So it may look different depending on the type of thing. But we want them to have those encore experiences. There's going to be a service learning component built in at all grade levels. We think it's important for kids to understand what it feels like to give back. And then they build that self-worth feeling within themselves. So each of the programs is going to be building in some kind of service learning. Zones of regulation will be done K through 12. And that, again, we've talked about that a couple of times. That's the emotional regulation programming. It mirrors a stoplight, red, yellow, green. And so staff have been trained on that, how to implement that. Students know they can say, I'm on the red right now, I need a minute, and then they have a series of strategies that they use to get themselves to yellow and then to green. They're going to be accessing those mentors through our Aspire program. We'll be giving an update on that. We're going to be moving forward with that program again. And then typically for some of our 6 through 12 kids, when we do the superintendent's hearing, we add in, maybe they go take a tour of the tech center so they can see what those options are there for them. And so that will be a part of the programming as well, to go and talk with some of the other students and staff at the tech center. In terms of daily schedule, so this summer the staff worked kind of put together because we really wanted it to mirror, rather than a 3-hour block of just focusing on math. Both of the programs now have a true schedule where they're up, they're moving, they're doing different things during the course of the day. So this is an example of the new beginning schedule. You can see there that they'll have a core block in the morning. They'll take a mindfulness break or a recess break. They'll go to a core block of 2, so they might do math and then they'll do reading. There's a school counseling block built in. There's an encore block, so that's where they'll do that music or art, or like go to the library. They'll do another recess, another core instructional block. They'll do some kind of enrichment activity. It might be a passion project or something like that. And then each group's going to close out with some kind of reflection or closing activity each day. So that's what the elementary schedule will look like. The secondary schedule is very different than what it used to be. They're actually going to be moving from classes. Now, while they'll have the same teacher and they'll be in the same room, there's still going to be that little break between. So we're going to start with math, but then we're going to put math aside and we're going to go to English. And so more reflective of a traditional schedule. They'll have that little break to be able to change things. They'll do their lunch is included, where they'll have a recess period there, walking, talking, some kind of activity period. And then they will also, at the end of the day, have some kind of, we're going to call it Wise and Panther time. They'll have some kind of reflective activity where they close out the day before the students are dismissed. So that's a very different schedule than in the past, where it was a 3-hour block. You were here in this room at the tech center. They might move from Mrs. Comer to Mrs. Reed and experience different things during the day as they go through their period. And then staffing wise for each classroom. So right now, each classroom is staffed with a teacher and an instructional assistant to support those students. Rise Academy, we do have 2 teachers there because we typically have more students in the 9 through 12 program. But they have the 1 instructional assistant as well. Again, that split school counselor position, she's split with Stanley. She'll split part of her day at Stanley, part of her day at the tech center. So those kids will get that counseling service on site, in person, every day. And then counselors and principals from the student's home school will stay connected throughout the semester with the student, so that, again, that transition back becomes pretty seamless. And the principals of each of those buildings, so Mrs. Pettit at the tech center, Mrs. Miller at the middle school, and Dr. Carroll at Springfield, they are the lead administrators for the programs, each of those. And we just want to take a minute and thank all of them, because they did a lot of work this summer to revamp this, to develop these schedules, to talk about what it's going to look like, work through all the details of this new programming. And they've done a great job, and they give their all to these kids when they come. It takes a special person to work in an alternative setting, and I think we have the right people in the right places. So we're excited about what it looks like. So we just say thank you to all of them for their work and their support, and to the students and their parents, because obviously they have to be a part of that program as well. In terms of enrollment, where we are right now, ideally our goal is to keep class sizes capped between 6 and 8 students. Again, it's a lot because each of them is working on a different individual plan. You might have a 6th grader, a 7th grader, and an 8th grader all in the same classroom. They're all working on different things. And they're working on different behavior goals and things like that. So you try to keep those numbers low. We may at some point have to talk about additional staffing. It just depends on how many students need to be placed in a program. Can we move a student out to put a new student in? We talked about there is some flexibility within that 18-week window to potentially move a student back to their home school before 18 weeks. That'll be a team decision. And again, the parent and the student are part of that decision. In 2022-23, just to give you some scope, even though it's two really separate models we're talking about, we had about 30 different academy placements last year. Right now, what you see on this chart is where the numbers are, where we're starting. So at the Rise Academy at the Tech Center, we currently have 6 students that are placed. At the middle school program, we have 4. At New Beginnings, we have 3. Our off-campus learning, we have 1 right now. And in our ISAP program, we currently have 2 students. So it just gives you, and this is the beginning of the year. So we've got, the remainder of the year to go. So, but that's where we are right now with starting out on Monday. So looking ahead, in terms of where we want to go, what are we going to do? Obviously, we've made a lot of changes. We need to monitor those changes, and we need to adjust accordingly. So there'll be some bumps in the road because there may be something we didn't think about, and we have to figure out how to handle it, or if something isn't working and we need to revamp it. So we'll be monitoring and adjusting as we go through the course of the year. Again, our goal within 5 years, our future goal for this is to have all of these programs housed under one building, one roof. So we have a cohesive school where if you're in a part of the alternative program, you go to that one school. Makes things obviously easier for transportation, food services, all of those things. But that's a long-term goal to get there, to be able to have the space to do that, and then to be able to have the staffing, because we envision a program where at the middle school and the high school level, for example, there's a teacher that's dedicated to math. There's a teacher that's dedicated to English, one for history, one for science, one for electives. And then kids go and they rotate to those teachers and they specialize in that one thing, regardless of what grade they're in. Right now, our teachers are specializing in everything. Mrs. Comer and Mrs. Reed do it all. They do math, they do reading, science, social studies, encore. Eventually, our goal is to build that program out where you have people that's their focus area, and that's what we teach. And then slated coming up in September, we'll give you guys, because I know you would want it, some actual discipline data talking about what were the reasons students were placed in these programs, and then other data related to just regular discipline throughout the school. So that is coming for you, next steps looking ahead.
The metrics on success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's just a quick overview, some of the details of how we've revamped the program for the start of the school year. So we're starting on Monday. Transportation is ready. Food services is ready. Those teachers are ready. Students came into orientation, met the teachers and the instruction.
Well, I would just like to say everybody that worked on this is to be commended, especially how you look at the schedule for each of these levels, K through 5 and so forth. That in itself is a major plus for these students. And, again, the small group, that'll be amazing. So, and, until it's there, like you said, there might be hiccups, but you can tell a lot of time went into this. So I appreciate it.
Kudos
Thank
to
you.
our administrators. They really put in counselors. They put a
Yeah.
lot of time and effort and thought into it.
And the good thing too is these students, I would think sooner than later, will realize that you are really trying to help them, and that can make a lot of difference.
So there's a lot of changes. So, what was the rationale behind going to the different schools and whatever change we made there?
So I think one, we needed to really structure our programs differently because middle school kids need things that are different than high school kids. We started the K-5 program last year. It was working, so we decided to continue it there. The space is good right now for that, so let it work. And some of the teachers had expressed that they really wanted some separation between middle and high. Because you think about having a 6th grader with a 12th grader. So we had started talking about, well, how can we separate it at the tech center? And we realized we needed more space. Ms. Miller said, well, come and look at the space that I have. I'd love to have the program housed at the middle school. So we went and walked and talked and decided that for now, splitting it out made sense to move the program to.
Where is that space within the school?
So it's on the back hall by the cafeteria, the old home ec room, I think,
Yeah.
the fax room, is that correct?
Yeah.
It's been repainted, maintenance.
Is that the office or the room on the far end near the door?
Yes. If you're facing the door to walk out, it's on the right.
On the right.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's all connected there.
Has its own restroom in there. It's a big space. They've done a lot of cleaning up of some things in there. They've ordered new furniture for it. It's more some collaborative furniture, but also some furniture where students have room to work independently should they. So I think the impetus came from the teachers talking about how can we maybe do some things differently. We couldn't necessarily make that change with the limited space. Miss Miller stepped in and offered her space. Miss Hitt, who you know is the new assistant principal there, has experience coming from Charterhouse. So the timing of that couldn't have been more perfect in terms of what she's brought to the table with her experiences in looking at the middle school program, but the whole program across the board.
So we don't think there's a risk of, a school that just went from not being accredited to being accredited.
Kids are tied to their home schools in terms of their scores. Even though they're housed at Page Middle, they're still considered, if they are a Luray Middle kid, they're still considered a Luray Middle. So those scores aren't tied to one school. They go back to their home school.
Okay. But even the pressure of it, it's going to be more pressure, right? It's different behavioral set, right? It's another
Yeah, I
room.
think-
It's more manageable.
Yeah, I think it's more manageable this way because you have more time with the kids during the day. It's a more structured approach versus a 3-hour chunk where they might have only been focusing on one content for a small period of time. Now they're focusing more on the same schedule that they would have at their home school, and they're spending time each day on that content. So while that pressure is always there for those SOLs, I think it's not quite as much because we know they're getting the same content that they would be at their home school that they're getting at the alternative ed center, where sometimes before they were moved over to Apex. And so there was always that coordination of where were they in Apex? Now they're going back to their home school. We got to make sure that the homeschool teacher knows exactly where they were in that content. Did they miss something? How do we catch them up? Are they ahead? Because it's hard to manage those schedules. This way, we feel like those schedules are going to be aligned a lot better.
Dr. Fox, can I, just from my middle school, when I was principal at Luray Middle, a good example that might help. For example, at the middle level, science, the SOL is in 8th grade. It captures 6, 7, and 8 in one test. So now they're still connected to that 8th grade science teacher. They're going to be getting the appropriately paced content leading into that final middle school science SOL, as opposed to Apex, which was, a virtual course not connected to our science teachers. And so there's going to be some wins here with kids staying on pace at that middle level. Sure.
And I taught alternative ed for several years, and I think this model sets our students up for better success
Yes, I
of moving when they move back to their home school, to be a better student in that normal educational setting. Regular day matches that much more closely than.
Yeah, I see the reasoning behind that.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned we get a school that's accredited and then
Yeah.
put an extra burden.
No,
It is
their
an
kids
extra-
are their kids, and Luray's
Yeah.
kids are Luray's kids, so they're still responsible for that.
Collaboration.
Everybody's-
And that's why, because some people keep saying, why the 9 to 2? And that's the piece that's critical. You give them a little bit of time in the morning, a little bit of time in the afternoon, because, you look at the middle school, they've got 4 kids. So that teacher's got to communicate with 4 times 4. That's 16 different teachers because that child has 4 classes. They need that time to be able to collaborate and communicate. We need them talking to counselors. We need them talking to administrators. So, and they've got to be ready to plan for the next day. What is Dr. Fox going to work on when she works in the next day? They need that time to be able to make sure they're ready when those kids come.
And I think that there's the element of community service that really needs to be communicated, right, when it's happening, because they need a pat on the back just as much.
They do, absolutely. They need
Maybe
to
more
feel
so.
good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the pieces that I think excites us almost the most is that we might be able to return kids back who've had coming and sitting in front of a superintendent's hearing is not fun. It's not a good experience, but they can go to this place and have a good experience and carry that with them when they go back to their home school. And then hopefully we never see them again, right? That's the goal, is to get you back, fix some of the things that you needed some help with, build you up a bit, and then take you back. and work with you as you transition back.
Would there be a possibility as this thing gets going to maybe have some communication with the community, Stanley, Shenandoah, Luray, and all in between about some possibilities of community service with different organizations or whatever?
Yeah. I would say if anybody's listening tonight and they have a suggestion or an idea, reach out to the principals of those schools and let's talk about it. Because again, getting kids out in the community too is going to be a great experience for them because they may not get the opportunity to do that. So it might be that one day the math lesson is at a grocery store or something different. That again is going to build them up, build skill sets, work on this is the kind of expectation we have when we're in a public setting for professional behavior and those kinds of
Maybe they could even present the project. At the end of the project, after presentation, really build their confidence.
kids might not like that so much, but I think it'd be a great
Yeah,
idea.
but it would give them the opportunity to show what they've done, and then they really could really appreciate their work. It's kind of cool.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, we're excited. Thank you.
Dr. Hubert, construction update?
Absolutely. Good evening, members of the board and audience. Speaking of excitement, I'm excited to present our accreditation update for the upcoming school year, which was officially released publicly on Tuesday. So just to kind of set you up for what you can expect in the presentation is I'm going to go through our overall division results, which is a phenomenal improvement on the year prior, as you're aware. You can see that our 2024-25 accreditation status for our schools there on the right-hand side, all fully accredited, with the exception of one school, Luray Elementary, which is accredited with conditions. And so what we're going to do is just walk through each school. I'm going to talk with you about their results and the data from the accredited tests that are measured, and then we'll talk about what we're doing next steps for improvement as a whole. So to start off, we'll just take a look at the division. I think this is a really important visual to provide you and the public just to see the progress that has been made over the past 3 years. You can see that progress there where we are now ranked 60th in the state of Virginia overall. So what that means is looking at all assessments from grades 3 to end of course, averaged out total number of tests, total passes, and rank that among the 132 divisions. So you can see that progress over time where, in 22-23, we were only above 38 divisions in the Commonwealth, and just 2 years later, we're above 72. So I think that's a huge testament to the work of our teachers, of our staff, support of the board, and our leadership team as well. And I think that, that's something that we need to really keep in mind as we move forward, is to build on those strengths, build on those successes, identify those areas of growth, and keep that trajectory moving in the right direction. So we'll start with Page County High School. Each slide is set up just to show you the different areas that are measured for accreditation, which I'm sure you're aware. These are the same that would have been measured in the year prior. Where they landed, green is good. Green is you met the mark, okay? Yellow means you're level 2, which is you didn't meet the mark, but you're okay. Red means you're below where you should be. And we'll talk about what that means and how we address that. But if you look at Page County High School, you'll see their English performance at just over 82%. They were level 1 in their GAP group English. And remember, GAP groups are looking at all of our different subgroups. So students with disabilities, our English language learners, Hispanic students, Black students, white students. It kind of breaks it down, as I'm sure you're aware of. But we're level 1 in our GAP group for English, 95% in math, level 1, GAP group math, almost 85% in science. We'll come back to absenteeism. GCI is your graduation and completion index. And that's what we're really all here for, right? Pre-K through 12, that's what we're trying to do. And that's phenomenal at 97.52%. And you'll look at the next one, their dropout rate, 0%. Their CCCRI is 94.93%. And that index, just as a refresher, measures things like credentialing, work-based learning, service-based learning, and how many students participate, or advanced coursework as well, how many students participate in one or more of those items. So not only are we graduating at 97.52%, 94.93% of those students have something else in addition to just the diploma, if that makes sense.
And does that count summer school graduation as well?
It does. Yep. Yep, absolutely. So, and back to absenteeism, we know, and we've talked about it in prior meetings and our work sessions and in other arenas as well, has been a focus for the school division. And while they are level 2, you can see that they did improve to 27.15%. Please remember, and I'm a former high school principal and assistant principal, it's a little bit different ballgame when kids turn 17 and 18 years old. And so compulsory attendance is a whole nother conversation. And so while we're going to continue to focus on that, and it is an area of emphasis, I do want us to kind of keep that perspective. So for every school, we're going to talk about strengths and areas of growth, because that's one of our things is we have a positive pathway moving forward this school year. Every school has things that they've done really well, and we always have areas that we can get better at. So you'll see on the left-hand side, strengths, their reduction in chronic absenteeism, almost 12% in 1 year. Look at that English achievement for students with disabilities, almost a 30% increase in our students with disabilities and their achievement in English standards. And then the bottom one again, to that CCCRI, 131 out of 138 students met that criteria, which is impressive. And then areas for growth, again, we talked about it, level 2 chronic absenteeism, which will be a focus of their comprehensive school improvement plan, which I'll talk at the end about. And then their English performance, all student category dropped just about 5%. So it's something to look at. That's not drastic, that's not earth shattering, but it is something to kind of take a look at overall. All right, moving on to Luray High School. Again, you're going to see all categories in green, except for absenteeism. They're at a level 2 at just under 27%, but again, across the board, looking at really a stellar performance, 88% in English, level 1 gap group English, 83% math, level 1 math, 81% science. Their GCI is at 98%. That's that graduation index. Again, right kind of in line with where Page County High School was. Their dropout rate, I think that's 1 student, so it's 0.72%. And then their CCCRI was at 92%. So again, fantastic performance. Looking at strengths and areas of growth for Luray High School, again, 5% reduction in chronic absenteeism. They did a heck of a job as well. In their English achievement for students with disabilities, a 13% increase, and then a 5% increase in math. So really that subcategory of students with disabilities, both in math and English, showed great gains, which is something to be proud of. Areas for growth. Absenteeism, again, you're going to see that on every slide. That's going to continue to be a focus for us as a school division, and I'm optimistic about that number continuing to drop. And science achievement in the all-student category dropped just over 6%. Everybody following me so far? I know I'm
Yes,
kind of moving
doing
quick.
great.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right, Page County Middle School, again, fully accredited, fantastic, exciting time for them and all the hard work that they've put in. English achievement, almost 75%. They did have a level 2 in their gap groups in English and math. We'll talk about that on the next slide. But math achievement, again, right at 75%. Science, just under 68, and their chronic absenteeism at 21.96. That was a level 1 because it was a reduction of 10% to the year prior, which is why you see that in green, just to clarify. All right, strengths and growth. So you'll see 3 in each category for the middle school. Again, strengths, reduction in chronic absenteeism. This one's a big one for me, and one that they should be really proud of is that increase in the economically disadvantaged student English achievement. So those are students that meet that economically disadvantaged category, and had almost, just right over 11% increases, phenomenal. And then in science, right around 17.5% improvement in 1 year, which shows a lot of targeted work in that specific content. Areas for growth: absenteeism, our students with disabilities. That's the gap groups that you saw that were yellow on the prior slide in English and math. And those are the two areas of focus, with English achievement at 55.56% and math at 61.54%. And so that's why you saw those level twos. So that will be an area of their comprehensive school improvement plan that we'll work. All right, looking at Luray Middle School, fully accredited. So again, if you're looking at same kind of situation here, English, they're at 81%. Gap group in English, they were at a level 2. Math, 87% overall, which is fantastic. Gap group in math, they were level 1, which is awesome, and a great improvement. Science, they were at a level 2 at 63%, and absenteeism at 17.43%. So strengths and growth. Again, 13% reduction in chronic absenteeism in 1 year. Fantastic. 17.69% increase in students with disabilities. So you can see some targeted work that really paid off and helped our students in that subgroup be successful. And then again, students with disabilities in math at 11%. Areas for growth. You're going to see the level 2 science achievement, level 2 English students with disabilities, and level 2 math students with disabilities. So while we increased, we have more work to do in those categories. But again, just as that kind of second slide showed, we're trending right. And so we need to continue to build off those successes. All right, looking at Luray Elementary School, they are accredited with conditions. And you'll see their performance in those categories. Their red category is their level 3 in science at 59.46%, but also a lot to celebrate in those other areas as well. Their gap group in English was a level 1. Their absenteeism was a level 1, and math and English as well, right around 75% across the board. Strengths and areas of growth. So again, a huge reduction in chronic absenteeism, an increase in their students with disabilities and English achievement at 11%, and their achievement gap jumping up level 2 to level 1, which was a huge focus for them. And to see that come to fruition is fantastic, and proof that those strategies that they put in place were successful. Areas for growth, we know this: level 3 science achievement at 59%, level 2 math students with disabilities achievement at 50%, and level 2 economically disadvantaged English at 69%. Shenandoah, green across the board. Again, something to definitely celebrate both with them and across the division and all of their hard work. English at 85%, their level 1 in their gap groups, math at 82, science at 83. So all 3 categories tested are above 80% proficiency, which is to be commended, and absenteeism at a level 1. So their strengths and areas for growth, again, almost 9% reduction in absenteeism. Look at their science achievement increase. It's phenomenal. Almost 37%. That's intentional work that came to fruition, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And then something they should also be really proud of, if you look back in their data over a 3-year history, 100% of their Hispanic students have passed their SOLs in English. 100%. Areas for growth, level 2 at English in students with disabilities and math students with disabilities. Stanley, fantastic school year, and again, great improvement, very targeted efforts. They are fully accredited as well. English at 78%. They were a level 2 for their English gap group, and math 88% in math, level 1 gap group math, almost 80% in science, and level 1 in chronic absenteeism as well. Their strengths and areas for growth, gosh, almost 16% reduction in 1 year in chronic absenteeism. Again, look at their science achievement, very targeted efforts, right around 18.6%. And then their overall pass rate, if you look at all of their tests, was right around 9%. If you look at 3 through 5. Areas for growth, students with disabilities, they were a level 3 over 3 years in their English achievement, students with disabilities. So that'll be part of their plan that all schools will have moving forward. And then their economically disadvantaged English achievement was level 2. In Springfield, another stellar performance here, all green across the board. Again, if you look at English and math, above 80%, science is right there, very close at almost 78%. Both of their gap groups are level 1, and their absenteeism is just under 13% for the year. And their strengths and areas for growth, again, they had a reduction, as did all of our other schools, in chronic absenteeism. If you look at their percentile rank, this is a unique piece of data that I wanted to put in. They're in the 72 percentile rank out of 265 elementary schools in our CIP that participate in CIP in the state of Virginia. So being in that upper percentile rank is something they should be very proud of. And then if you look again, as I talked about with Stanley, their overall pass rate on all tests, 3.5, was almost 80%. Areas for growth, they do have a level 3 in the students with disabilities English achievement over their 3-year period, and level 2 students with disabilities in math, right at 69%. So that was a lot of information, but a lot of good information. I hope that you see the amount of growth and progress and things being on the right trajectory for all of the schools in many different areas and in different ways. And so there's lots to celebrate in that. And I hope we all recognize that. We also recognize that it doesn't matter if we're accredited or accredited with conditions. We're in a constant state of improvement. And all of our schools believe in that. Our leadership teams believe in that. And so if you ask what's next, this is our process. And this is the process that it's not new, but it is a process that we will continue to utilize, refine, and ensure that not just at the school level, but the division level, we're all very involved and invested. And this is our comprehensive school improvement plans, which are very important because what they do is they tie the work that happens around improvement, around changes, around initiatives and strategies that we're using in each and every school back to the division. So you'll see the way that this plan is set up with our school division goal that aligns with a school-based goal, right? Because as a school board, as a division, as a leadership team, we have a strategic plan that guides the work that we do. It's very important that each one of our schools and their work and their improvements ties their goals right back to what our big goal is as an umbrella, right? So that's what this does. And it connects their goals to our school division goals and their goals to some of those areas you saw that were yellow, red, or identified as areas for growth, right? It makes sense logically how those things are connected. Those action steps say, okay, it's great to have a goal, but what are you going to do about it? And so those action steps directly align to if our goal is to increase students with disabilities achievement in English from 59% to 70%, what are the very intentional steps we're going to take to do that? Who's responsible? That's the column number 2. So it doesn't always have to be the principal, right? It's a collective shared leadership approach. The time frame, all right, when is it going to happen? Is this something that's going to take us a year, 2 years? Is it going to happen the first 9 weeks of school? We need to make sure we hold ourselves accountable to that and how we're going to actually put that into place. What shows us that we actually did it? So that's what the evidence of progress completion, because we can talk all day long, but what's our evidence that shows we wanted to do this, it had this outcome, and here's our evidence to show it, right? And you'll see linked to artifacts. So that could be data, that could be student work, it could be a number of things, but we have to make sure we don't just say we did it, but that we show we did it. And then the final column who monitors along the way for frequency, right? And so that might be an instructional coach, could be a reading specialist, could be Brian Huber. It just depends on what that goal is, who it impacts, and the time frame of implementation. So go ahead.
Can I ask you, on the, okay, so on your monitoring frequency, what is the frequency of monitoring? Are you going to do IPRs, and what time frame are you looking at?
So it'll depend on that time frame, right? So if that time frame is let's say it's a 9-week time frame beginning and end date, and we know that we have 3 data points in there, then we're going to say, all right, every 3 weeks is our frequency that we're going to monitor it and report that back out as a school leadership team to whoever's involved attacking that certain action step.
Right. But that'll be key to make you lift and shift if you have to.
That's right. You want to be able to pivot, because the worst thing you can do is do all of this and then wait to the end to find out, right? That's what you don't want to do.
Exactly.
And so that's why that column's included, so that you're putting yourself some checkpoints along the way. So, because it might not work.
Right.
Like what you thought is going to address your problem could be completely having the opposite effect. And then you need to be able to say, let's pivot and do something else.
But you can do that with this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next slide is just the second layer of this. So you have your plan, right? Your CSIP is what we call it, that aligns to those areas of growth that you saw in the right-hand column on the previous slides, and the school division's goals and the school goals. And then this is how we, to your point, monitor it along the way. And it's at a minimum quarterly. And then you'll see those action steps fill down right into this piece. The same action steps you had above come down. What are the evidence and artifacts that you reviewed? And then those codes that you see in the blue boxes are where you're marking yourself, and that we're looking at as a division when we meet with schools and are in schools about where they are. So we initiated it and we're on time. That's what the I means. Time frame is, because sometimes you have great plans and it doesn't work the way you want, and you need to identify that. Progressing according to your time frame, where you completed it, not reported, revised, and you got to state your reason. You know, we realized this didn't work, or whatever the case might be. IO is we initiated it outside of the time frame, but we did it. We just didn't hit the time we wanted to do it. PO, progressing, you get the idea. CO, completed outside of the time frame, not initiated, and NP. And NP is not what we want, but it's also okay to be transparent and recognize. And if we've all been in schools and worked in schools, sometimes that's reality. But this is the tool that we use and will use for each school. As a division leadership team and as a school leadership team, we'll be in every school reviewing these plans at least every other month. As a division team, but the schools will use this regularly in their school leadership teams. And then we come in as a division team and try to see how we can support and kind of put all the resources and minds around the table to see how we can kind of get some of those NPs to be Ps or POs is kind of what we're looking at. So that's the idea and the concept of how we take the progress we've made, build off the successes, and then keep that momentum very targeted moving forward. So just want to make sure I offer the opportunity to answer questions. I know that was a lot of information and data and stuff, but that's kind of where we are accreditation wise and our plan moving forward to continue to make progress and help our students be successful.
So one thing I think we mentioned last meeting was getting in front of the Board of Supervisors and getting it on the docket to go through those schools. I think that's,
Yeah, we're looking at their September. I just have to, I have a conflict that I need to fix,
okay,
but it's their first real meeting in September.
okay.
Get on their agenda to, I don't know that we can do this scale because there's so many pieces you have to know, but
Yeah.
some version of this to give them the idea of where we are.
Yeah.
And I think Dr. Huber would do a great job too.
I think he would too.
Thank you.
You could actually do that one spreadsheet, let it fill it up there. It's awesome data.
Yeah.
No,
And
it's
it's really
nice to
necessary.
see,
Yeah.
it's nice to see the upward trajectory
Yeah.
of things.
For sure.
And I
And
think they would appreciate seeing that. Puts it in perspective of the success of
Mm-hmm.
it. And it's school.
It's not much so it's the board, it's more like the.
Well, I mean,
It happened, yeah,
their board sees.
yeah.
Well, but yeah, and it's a nice tie back to say, these raises that you've been giving,
Yes,
you know, look at the work that these folks are doing. They're not just, these folks they're doing the hard work in those classrooms to make those arrows go this way. So it's a true testament to that collaboration that it takes of all of us in this together to make these things.
so I heard that you were going to be in the schools, because I've been a proponent of that all along, and everybody knows that. So you said when are you going to be in the schools?
So we have it scheduled as a division instructional team. We're in there every other month just to review this. Not saying that's
Right.
the only time we're going
Right.
to be there, but the important thing about those is that we have to make sure that we're looking through those plans and identifying resources and ideas that maybe at a school level you don't know are even there or recognize, or making connections, right? And so a connection that's already been made that I think is fantastic, you know, when we look at the work we need to do in science at Luray Elementary, well, that principal has already taken it upon herself to facilitate coordination with Shenandoah. Well, why? Well, you saw the jump. And so that it helps to, as a leadership team, both at the building level and the division level, kind of keep that all tight and on track with those plans, and let us support and kind of make sure we know how we can best help them move forward. So that's a minimum, and that's just for the plan. It'll be more than that, but yeah, for sure. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say, we've come a long way since 2019.
Oh, yeah.
We've come a long way.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to policy BDDE. Rules book.
Yeah, so this evening I bring it to you for information. We'll bring it back next week for approval, but just a very minor change based on a conversation in this policy, which is the rules of order of how we conduct our meetings. We do use as a guide Robert's Rules of Order. And we want to change the policy rather than every time there's a new edition, having to go back and change the policy, to just have it reflect the most recently published edition of Robert's Rules of Order. So just a very minor change for you that we'll bring back for approval.
You are up again with superintendent updates.
Yes, so sorry you get to hear me now again, but definitely some more things that we want to celebrate of the good stuff that's going on in the school division. So we started last week. Mr. Samples, you're going to go into quiet mode. Last week, and it's hard. Yes, it was last week, right? We brought back all of our new teachers for new teacher orientation. We have a nice guest here this evening.
Oh,
We want to learn too.
Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead and you can smack me in the head.
Oh, look at that.
Right, aggressive.
Stomp them.
Where is it? Is it there?
Just wasps. I'm sorry, everybody.
That was a good movie. I like that. Karate, jiu-jitsu, what was that? Okay.
Got my back.
All right, everybody's good?
Yes.
Everybody got stuff?
We're all on.
Sorry about that.
All right, so we started our new school year actually starts with our new teacher orientation training, and that was on August 12th and 13th at Page County High School. We had 41 new staff members that we worked with, provided a variety of different activities on different topics. So they got some things on technology, special ed, the power of what if thinking from Dr. Huber, getting to know your school, where they spent time with their principals and some of the staff at the school. Dr. Johnson and staff talk about professionalism. We talk about instruction, connecting the dots in Page County. How does it all align? We have a teacher panel where they talk about things they wish they'd known as a new teacher. And they had lunch one day with their principals and some of us. And then the second day, they have lunch together. It's sponsored by the Page Education Association. So nice 2 days worth of it. We wanted to just share a little activity because while that's a lot, it feels like for them, they're coming in and we use the saying, sometimes you're drinking from a fire hose because they're getting so much information, but you've got to give them all these different pieces. The morning of the second day, we take a minute with them and we just do a little bit of a fun activity with them, and it's called Add 5. When they walk in that morning, they're given a card. It has a quote on it, and it has a sticker that's a color, so they're randomly assigned to groups. Each group has a different prompt that they're given. In this particular example, the prompt is a parent called one morning and shared with me that they're ... And their job as a collective group, there were about 6 or 7 people in each group, they have to go and add 5 words. They can only add 5 words, and they get to make up the story of what this prompt starts. So they add their 5 words, and then they rotate to the next prompt, and they read what the previous group wrote. They add their 5 words, and they do that. We had 6 different prompts and 6 different stations that they rotated around. This is an example of the end of it. And then at the end, we have the group share out what their story was so everybody can see how the story progresses. And the idea, what we tell them is have fun. Clean fun, but let's have a little bit of fun. And so this one was a parent called one morning to share with me that their child will wear a pink fuzzy bear costume all year. It has a large bow on each foot and 20 sparkly sequins and jingle bells. The teacher said, we will match. So it's just a little bit of fun, a little bit of whimsy. And the point of that activity is twofold. One, it's for them to now meet people that they don't know, because when we typically bring them in, they're sitting with their school. But now they meet people from all of the schools, everybody who's new. And 2, again, it's just this job is hard. When you're teaching, there are days where it feels impossible, but it doesn't mean we still can't have a little bit of fun. And it was a good reminder for us when we do this activity. It's fun for us because we get to see them smiling and laughing in the midst of all the seriousness of technology and don't violate it and special ed. These are federal laws. You've got to meet them, to have a little bit of fun and just remind them that it's okay to have good, clean fun. As a teacher, our kids need to see us having joy in what we're doing and teaching. So just a little highlight of one of the activities that we do in new teacher orientation. We also then celebrated convocation, and I absolutely adore this picture and the viewpoint of it. It shows you everybody's there, and they're in their school colors or grouped together, and just the power that we have in Page County. Everyone that's doing this hard work was in that room on Wednesday afternoon, and I just couldn't be more proud of this group of people and the work that they're doing and what they're getting ready to do this school year. I just am so excited for what they're about to do with everybody. We did have the pleasure also of having a keynote speaker this year. We tried to change it up a little bit and had a former graduate from Luray High School, Nolan Nichols, whose mom obviously worked in the division. Dad is well known across Page County as well, but he is a graduate also of Virginia Tech and worked in their media program with the football program. And he just worked with us, inspired us, encouraged us to bring our best version of ourselves to work every day. He reminded us of the power of a 5-degree change, of where that plane just 5 degrees and how different that would be in that trajectory, to take joy in our journey. So again, following up on it's okay to have fun and do the work that we do. And use various mindset changes to push through when those challenges do present themselves, because they will. So again, we thank him. It was a wonderful experience to hear him. What a great opportunity for us to get him, because he's an international speaker. So we were just excited, and thank you to Mrs. Seacrest for all of her work to make that happen. I know I went home and was thinking through some of the things that he had said. So I've heard positive comments. People enjoyed him. We were also lucky to have with us Dr. Cardell Patillo, who is the VSBA president of their Board of Supervisors. He's also a Portsmouth School Board member, but he came and drove from Portsmouth to join us for our convocation. So again, we want to say thank you to Dr. Patillo for joining us and representing VSBA and making the effort to come, because he didn't have to make the effort to come all the way out here in beautiful Page County. Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Ah,
He was very impressed.
He was.
He liked the program.
Good. We aim to impress. And again, you look at that first picture, you got a lot of people who are working hard to make that happen. We also talked at Convocation and at other events, at our board retreat, at our Leadership Academy. Principals have focused on it, but our theme for this school year is positive pathways. And we really are choosing to change our little part of the world by moving from the negativity to the positivity. I know it's hard sometimes. I know it is, but I know we can do it too. We're finding the positive in situations and in people. We're looking for pathways that lead to success and opportunities for students. And we know that not everybody's path looks the same, and that's okay. We accept that and we work within that. I think our alternative education program shows you that sometimes paths need to be a little bit different, and that's okay. And then stealing again from Dr. Huber and Mr. Tutt, I just love these two phrases about being enthusiastically optimistic and irrationally hopeful is where we are with it. So we're going to keep talking about, we have Monday messages planned and going out to our staff every Monday, a positive pathways message to our staff. Everyone, you guys have one. Each staff member got a journal or a notebook, certainly can use it for whatever they would like, but we've encouraged them to take some time every Friday and just write down a couple of those positives from the week. And by the end of the year, you're going to have this notebook filled with all these positive things to remind you of the value and the impact of the work that we do. Why not pay?
Yeah.
Need to copyright that.
Yeah, probably should.
So we kept going. There was even more positives and more learning. So we had a great day of professional learning this past Monday. Thank you to Dr. Huber and his team for putting all of that together. We were at Luray High School, and just a really positive day of learning there. So again, our elementary staff, they focused on a lot of that Virginia Literacy Act work. Pre-K staff worked on Stream in 3. Is that correct, Mr. Hopkins? Also did those work groups that they talked about, those that are grade-based, so first grade, second grade, they all got together and they started working on reviewing that curriculum. Our computer science grant folks, they got together and presented. We did zones of regulation with those teams at the schools that are going to be implementing that at full scale this year. They met and did their work together, and then there were other groups that met on the new VALS assessment, looking at those literacy plans that are going to have to be written. And looking at the new English language arts standards that have come out this year. At the secondary level, I think one of the most interesting, you go one more, thank you, pieces of that was the sessions were designed for staff around student engagement, and they were teacher-led. So teachers teaching teachers, and they were a lot of fun. So we've just listed there, we want to thank those teachers that took the time to put together those sessions, and/or departments met. So your PE departments all got together, music, art. They spent time together looking at curriculum planning, talking about engagement. So thank you to all of those staff members who were willing to put together those sessions. And as you went around, you saw teachers being engaged. They weren't just sitting the whole time. They were actually learning through engagement. So it was exciting to have that happen, and a lot of energy was coming out of those sessions on Monday. So anything you want to add about those two slides, Dr. Huber?
Oh, just a huge thank you to our team, Ms. Marston and Mr. Runyon, for really spearheading a lot of this and organizing it, and really carrying a huge load there, along with the staff. I just really appreciate it. Want to acknowledge their work because they put a lot of time into that, and I think it was a success. So thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins.
So also, in addition to that, there were other sessions because all employee groups get something on this day, whether it's all day, partial day, it just depends. There were our behavior support specialists did some work on de-escalation strategies with our instructional assistants. We went over the new English standards, the new math standards, the new accreditation process. Staff got an update on all of those things. There was a variety of different special education training sessions. Again, I've already referenced those department meetings that took place. There was a new CTE overview that took place, service learning going on at the high schools. We're going to bring you a full update on what that's all about. You're going to be excited about that. The VLA, the Virginia Literacy Act module, that work started at the middle school because that's coming into play next year. So they started this year. Care Solace, which I'll update you on in just a moment. The nurses and the counselors, we met with and did some training on that. So they're ready to roll all of that out. And then I wanted to just highlight, because I got an opportunity to do this one as well, based on some conversations we've had at the tech center through the foundation, we're looking to add an aviation program. So there was a session that afternoon that anyone could go to at the airport. And I've never been out there to actually, because you got to go in the hangars and their new, what do they call it? The new lobby hangar terminal. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. Words matter. And it's beautiful. I don't know if you've been in there. I don't think it's open to the public yet or not, but we got to go in and it's actually very beautiful. Yeah. So, but we got to go into two of the hangars. One is the service bay hangar and the other is an avionics hangar. And this picture that you see, I know it's a little bit small, but you're standing in front of a 1942 plane. It was actually in here for a little bit of service, and Matt Queen, who hosted us and did an excellent job of sharing all of this with us, asked the gentleman, could we take a picture in front of it? It was amazing to see that. And just amazing to see those hangars. I've never seen such clean working spaces in all my life. And just the work that they're doing over there. We are very, very excited about the possibility of adding an aviation program. So the next steps are going to be to talk about what does it look like, what can we do, who can we partner with to make these things happen, who can teach. So we'll bring back more information. We're going to have Mr. Pitts give you an update. We're going to talk at the next foundation meeting. But that was a really exciting opportunity. So thank you to Mr. Pitts and Ms. Pettit for setting that up, and Mr. Queen for hosting us. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity there. So talk about a positive pathway. There's some opportunities here that I think not only would benefit our kids, but our community in general. So this is an exciting area to be looking at, because a lot of it, we may not have to pay for the infrastructure for it, right? Kids can go to the airport, the space is already there. And that's a huge thing in terms of budget, to be able to expand programs. So I think I felt very positive after that day. It was I think everybody was exhausted, but it was a great day. I've heard positive feedback. Our metrics are positive. So part of our strategic plan is that when we do professional learning, we measure it. Was it effective? What are the suggestions? So Dr. Huber provided this data. So the quality of the session, out of 10, it's an 8.5. And the positive impact on students, out of 5, it's at a 4.3. That's pretty darn good for professional development when people just came back to work. You typically see those things hovering more at a 4 or like a 2. So this is great data that we're excited about. And again, we just appreciate everybody coming with an open mind, a good spirit, and really participating. People were engaged and were asking great questions and paying attention to the content. But some of it was serious and some of it was more, let's figure out how to engage kids more in the classroom, things like that. So again, great job to you guys, Mr. Runyon, Ms. Marston, Mr. Hopkins. Thank you all for that. Just a couple of additional updates and then I will be finished. Each year at this time, we start with our enrollment updates for you. So right now, currently, as we look to start school on Monday, we're sitting at 2,851 students, so just 29 under our budgeted amount of 2,880. If you recall, we upped that budget number. I think we'll get there. I think we'll be in the plus pretty soon. But at least we're not, 100, 200 down, so it's a good sign where we are. There's lots and lots of parent communication going out right now, not only from the division level, but from the school level. We've sent out Care Solace information to all families so that they know. And again, I'll talk about that in just a second. We sent out our student personal device use issue policy information. That included a timeline of what's next. I'm going to give that to you in a moment as well. We've sent out about the telemed program, and we have, the last time I checked, there were about 12 to 15 consents already, and that was within the first 30 to 40 minutes of that going out. So that's good news in terms of parents consenting for that. We sent out a welcome back letter that had a summary of all of that and some additional information. All of the open house information, open houses were yesterday and today. Those were going very well. Lots and lots of people. I think principals were ecstatic at the number of folks that had come. They had relatively few schedules sitting there waiting for kids to come. So good experiences there. We sent out reminders about the immunization requirements, not only at the 7th and the 12th grade level, but at the kindergarten level. Sports physical opportunities. We got a thank you from Valley Health. They had over 85 students participate and get physical. So, and again, another great partnership. They're excited about it. We're excited about it. So we know that that one will continue. Care Solace this is another exciting opportunity that we're really hoping will take off for our families, our students, and our staff. So Care Solace is an organization that provides free mental health and substance use coordination for students, staff, and families. And what this does is if somebody needs help, either in the world of mental health services or substance use, this group will connect them with the providers. And that's usually one of the most challenging steps, is getting connected to somebody or even figuring out how you start that process, because it can be overwhelming. Their mantra, their goal is to calm the chaos of mental health services. So a dedicated care companion will assist families in researching different providers. What are the options? Do you want local? Do you want out of Page County? Do you want virtual? Do you want in person? Do you want a man? Do you want a woman? Do you want what? Do you want someone that specializes in teenagers? Whatever they want, their goal is to match them with the right provider. They call and help secure the appointments. They work all of that for the families, and then they follow up to see if that match is a good match. If it's not a good match, then they go back to the drawing board and they look for another provider. And again, all of those services are free. They help them work through the insurance pieces of connecting with the provider. They help them work through any paperwork. If the family says, I can't get there, they'll coordinate and help work with transportation, whether we provide that or they work with Medicaid or other services that might be able to provide transportation. There's 3 ways that you can connect. One is through the schools. So all of our counselors have been trained, all of our administrators have been trained, all of our nurses have been trained. So at any point, if I'm working with Patty and I think Patty needs some help because Patty's a little overwhelmed, I can say to Patty and her mom, hey, I've got this group. Can you give me consent? I'll go ahead and register you in the system. And then a Care Solace care coordinator calls Patty and her mom, and they take it from there. All our staff have to do is make that initial consent, get the initial consent, and make the connection. It's called a warm handoff. And then Care Solace takes it from there. You can call their number 24/7, 365. They have multi-language services available. You don't even have to go through us as a school division. You can just call that number yourself, and they will connect you to the services that you need. The last one is you can go online, free anonymous. It's called Care Match. Again, you put in your information, and they then anonymously, we don't even know about it. We don't want to know about it. We just want you to connect. And this is free to our staff, our students, and their families. So I encourage you guys, if you know people, share this information. It's on our webpage. The letter's gone out. We'll track it. We'll see how it's going. We hope that it really makes a difference and it provides and connects people who need help with it. So we'll give you some updates on we'll have the metrics from where we connect folks. The other 2 services, we don't get that data, and that's fine. But the other, we'll be able to see. We recommended 7 people, and 7 people connected that way. We're excited about it. And then with regard to our electronic personal device use, that letter also went out to families explaining where we are, what the policy is. So what happens now? What are the next steps? So we're going to begin the school year with the policy as it's written. Principals have already been working with kids and families through the orientations. They'll go next week when they come in, they'll talk through all those expectations, work through the classroom procedures of what that's going to look like, say, at the secondary level. We're currently reviewing the guidance that did come out last week from the Department of Ed. They published draft guidance. That's in the letter to families as well. They have a feedback link. We've included that in our letter. So if you want to give the Department of Ed feedback, you have an open forum to be able to do that. They're going to publish their final version of the guidance on September 16th. So we'll wait and see what that final guidance says based on the feedback that they get from. Say again. It may be, depending on the feedback that they get. So I would encourage our families, you guys, anybody, staff, if you have comments about their feedback or you have a suggestion on what you think it should be, put it in there. It's just a quick little survey online that you fill out. You do have to give your name, but when they collaborate and get all those that feedback, it's not tied to any person. So we're going to wait and see what that final guidance is. We'll wait on that. And then we talked about a survey. We're going to let school start, and we'll distribute that beginning the week of September 9th. That's going to go to our secondary students, our families, and our staff. They'll each have a way to provide us feedback so we know where our constituents land with this particular issue. We've added a new section on our webpage where all of this information is kept. We've also linked it there. The VDOE has some information there about the benefits of limiting cell phone use and some of the research, so we've connected that on our website for families and parents and staff if they want to read that. We've created a frequently asked questions page that will update as we get questions. And then in our letter, we sent out a Google form. It said, if you have questions now, go ahead and put them in this Google form. When I checked this afternoon, there's one, and it wasn't really a question. It was just a thanks for doing this. We like it. So I encourage folks, if you have questions, put them in that form. We are looking at it. Or go to the VDOE and put your comments in there. And then our folks will have an independent chance to give feedback when we send out those surveys the week of the 9th. And then just some other communication and information that's going out. We want to remind parents about the parent portal. And that's where they'll see their child's grades. They can go in, see all their forms. They can follow attendance, things like that. So if you haven't had the chance, schools did a great job at their orientations, making computers available and having parents go in and either activate or reactivate their accounts, change their passwords if they needed to. We just encourage everybody to go in there, remind them that they do need to, by state code, they are required to sign off on that student handbook and code of conduct. They're not saying they agree with it. They're just saying that it's been provided to them from the division. So that is in state code. So we ask parents to go in and do that, as well as all the other releases and things like that. Field trips, media release, SOL retakes, all that kind of stuff is in there. We have in that parent letter, we've talked about also the parent contact flow chart. Say you have a question or a concern, who do you start with? We did this a couple years ago as a way to help parents navigate communication in the division. So that's there. It's on our webpage. Can see that best place to start usually with the teacher or the coach. And then it shows you how you can work your way up if you're not satisfied with the response. And then the PCPS app is one of our primary tools for communication. How to download and get that so you can have that information at your fingertips. You can pick the schools you want. You can pick whether you get notifications, all of that. You can customize it. But that is one of our primary tools of communication. So if parents don't have that yet, we encourage them to go download it. It's from the App Store. It's not terribly complicated to get that, but it is a good tool for communication for us. And then lastly, we just want to, again, we start school on Monday, believe it or not, we're here again. We just had graduation, but now we're here to celebrate again, first day of school. So a thank you to everybody across the division. Every single person has been working hard over the summer to get things ready. Thank you to all of our staff. We will be ready on Monday morning. Buses are ready, schools are ready, teachers are ready. So just a thank you to everybody. And then we just wish our kids and our families a wonderful first day on Monday. We're excited. We're going to be out in buildings supporting the schools in the mornings and afternoons, just seeing what they need as we work through the first day of everybody figuring things out. So we're excited and looking forward to Monday. So thank you for updating the question.
I got a recommendation, that Mr. Nichols when he came and spoke, there was a lot of good stuff that he provided, and especially the journaling part of it, as well as I made that note earlier. I think for all the ed students, it'd be good to show them some of that stuff, all those things, and to start journaling, to get that practice, the feelings out, very therapeutic.
When I talked to him, he did videotape that session, and videotape available.
Yeah, I can reach out to him. He did tell us
Yeah, it'd
that
be
he
great
would
to
share
share
any
our
of that
students,
stuff with us.
especially the middle and high schoolers, sure.
I'm
I think
sure
they
it's
could.
fucking home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
At your house?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, my home. I live in the home.
Thank you, Dr. Cool. Ms. Sechrist, approval of claims for payment.
Yes, good evening, board members. You have been provided a claim certification where operating expenditures are $416,814.40. Food service expenditures, $49,399.40 for total expenditures of $466,213.80. Along with that, you have the list of claims as well as all of the check registers. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Yes, sir. So the meals that we make for like Meals on Wheels, what does that come out of? Is that We,
So yes, this is just our expenditures. So this would be, so that would show up in the Fund 5, school food service expenditures. So potentially, if there was any materials bought for that, you could see that in that 49,000.
right, but so does that also reflect, where does the income, where does that come from?
So you'll see that would be a revenue base. That's usually in our monthly financials that are presented at the beginning of each month for the previous.
And that'll give us an idea of the running budget as well for the whole year.
Yes, so it gives you the percentage used to date, the monthly expenditure, and the budget allocated amount per function line.
I really like to see what we are. Yeah. Helps us with the budget.
Yep, that's in the monthly, that's done at the first meeting from the previous month.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a motion. Should we approve the claim? Second. We have a motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Ms. Sullivan Smith to approve the claims for payment.
Mr. Rothenfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Alger? Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes. See first purchase orders over 10,000.
Yes, we do have 3 for your consideration this evening. The first one is for door access additions as we continue to work on our lock upgrades and access to the buildings using state school security grant funding. And then the next 2 there are for chiller repairs at Page County High School. That would be coming from the operation unit. Again, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer those.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase orders for over $10,000 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Sullivan Smith, a second by Mr. Overfelt to approve the purchase orders over 10,000. Questions?
Just one question. We, JCI, when they did their repairs, we did some guarantees. It's on that,
Excuse me, not on the repairs. These were them come, excuse me. This was repair work, so I don't think we get, I'd have to check with Mr. Williams on the exact terms of that, but I don't know that we'll get an extended warranty on the chiller itself. I think there'll be some guarantees on the work that we perform.
Well, that fixed my question. So,
Okay.
how old are these chillers?
15 years.
Yes.
I would
Yeah,
think.
they're
Original to
Yeah.
the new building.
So, how much more lifespan did you have out of them? Any idea?
That's in our CIP paperwork. I could find that for you. I don't have that off the top of my head, but we've got the Bureau Veritas report, and that breaks all of that down, lifespan of different components.
You all gonna do that here real soon.
In the next week or 2, yeah. Yep.
A lot of questions about some of that stuff.
Just so you know, on this as well, we put these out to bid with several companies, and this is the direction with the bidding process. So
We get 3 bids, right?
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a bid is, they won't work on it. Sometimes a bid is a no, sometimes, but yeah.
Ms. Alger? Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Rothenfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Fox, revision to school board meeting dates.
Yes, Board, so I bring to you a change for approval to our 2024 school board meeting schedule. In October, rather than meetings on the 10th and the 24th, we're going to have one meeting that month on the 17th. So with your approval tonight, we'll make sure that that gets communicated out not only to staff, but to the community. So changing the date from the 10th and the 24th to the 17th.
I make a motion that we approve the revisions to the school board meeting dates as presented.
Motion by Mr. Painter and a second by Ms. Alger to approve the revision to the school board meeting dates.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Rothenfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Alger? Yes. Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board member discussion time?
This is just a thought, but with the information that was presented tonight on the all ed programs and some of the updates would that be something that we could present at some point with a community forum to get that information out? And there would be another part where if we're looking for some service projects, there could be people that attend that might have, interest and would want to sign up or whatever. And what a wealth of information presented tonight. Obviously, you all have been working out a yin-yang, and it shows, and it's appreciated. And I can't be excited enough to see schools start knowing what awaits in each of the buildings. Job well done, guys.
Okay, no, I'm gonna just basically echo what you said. I mean, so, I'm anxious to, I look forward to seeing the feedback from CISP plans and how we're gonna, integrate that with the Literacy Act and everything. And there's a lot coming down the pike that it's, at our school system. But it's really, to me, what I've seen in the last couple of meetings and convocations and so forth, I think we're well prepared. I think planning is, you guys done a great job of planning, getting us ready for all the things that are coming down the pike from the PDOE. So, well done. Hopefully we can help you all we can to make it. So, thank you.
Also, I think with the updates tonight, really positive stuff. I think across the board, really going like this. So, like we take that into the first day of school, and that's all to everyone. Have a great weekend. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I've got a couple. I think when we had those report outs from the schools, from that point, as a board member, I think we can all say this, we have understood better what's going on from that level, and then it shows in the results and everything that's being presented. So good work on that. Getting that information out for us, that was a great learning for us. I went to Keys Academy and did that open house, and I'm very impressed. I got to see all the rooms. They really complimented Teeter and his crew, doing all the work there. Everything looked great. So it's exciting to see that coming on. I think we might have some students in there maybe, or working to get that, make that happen. So welcome to them. I also, I was in an upset condition one night in the hospital and met a family that a young little girl who hadn't been to school yet that I understood. And I was asking the name, kind of what was going on, what school they would go to. So I sent an email to Dr. Carroll and Dr. Fox, and they took care of that student just like that. The student signed up, as best of my knowledge. I sent a text message about, is everything good? She says, yeah, I really appreciate everybody just jumping in and getting my student in there. So kudos to that. I went to Luray High School's orientation, and one of the best things I heard there, me and Mr. Runyon were talking about it later on, is in the counseling session, the fact that we have a plan for every rising freshman, a detailed plan based off SOLs or attendance or whatever it is to get them into being the best student that they can be. I'm listening to a counselor speak, Mrs. Lamb, and she's actually talking about how much she loves the students, and she's starting to tear up. I mean, that means something. That's some really good stuff there. So, and that thing was well done all the way through, just well done. And then I went to Luray Middle School's orientation. That was, you should have saw the crowd. I mean, it was like from the office all the way wrapped back to the gym, and they ushered people in there. It was like a cattle run, and really did a good job. A lot of parents hadn't been signed up for various reasons. They were sitting down there getting it done, and then Mrs. Damone was leading, where to go and checking in. And then once that line got established, everybody was through, she got on her computer, went over to a desk and started doing it herself, saying, hey, come here, I can help you get set up. So got everybody in there. Now, when I was in there, they talked about the cell phone usage, and there was a groan. We'll see how that works. But
From
there
the
was,
kids or the parents?
it was both. Some parents were looking at their kids like, yeah, you're not going to put that phone down, and then some other things too. I think it was parents like, oh no. But both groups did a great job with that. Well done, very well done. I appreciate it. We're doing a good job. You guys are doing a good job. We're just here talking about it every 2 months, right? Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
kudos to the principals and their staff.
Yes.
They put all they do all that work, so, and I echo your sentiment. They've all been fantastic. They've taken care of people, and the crowds have been, everybody's had full houses, so that's a testament that people want to come in the door and they want to communicate and talk with us.
Yeah, I believe that class has at Luray Middle School is 120. I believe
Yeah,
it
it's
is
a big
coming.
sixth grade class.
It's a big sixth grade class. Yeah. And the way that high schools did it was very, very good with the different teams and moving around. It was very easy.
I got an alibi. I wanted to comment about the convocation. I've never been to one of those like you guys took it, like you did, like they put the work into it. It was a fantastic experience. And I got a lot out of it myself. And I would just say, anybody who missed it, who got an invitation to go to it, they really missed out. And press company excluded. I didn't think that.
She was the only one missing.
But seriously, whoever in the community got invites that didn't make it to that, they missed a golden opportunity to see this school system expert. So,
Oh, no, you're good. I would encourage any of them that got the invite that, they could see our school system at their best every day. 'Cause we have an amazing school system, just by evidence of everything we've seen. And just want to wish everybody a wonderful start to the new year and enjoy your last weekend of summer.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
my second.
We have a motion by Ms. Alter and a second by
Get
Mr.
out of here.
Kirkhoff to adjourn.
Get out of here.
Silverfeld,
Yes.
Souter,
Yes.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Darrell Smith,
Yes.
Yes.